afternoon, Stuart.
Well, good afternoon, David.
How are you?
I'm fine. And I will tell you that one of our intent listeners is coming to the show in Croton Falls with her son and daughter-in-law. There's a listener you have not met, but she listens regularly.
I'll be happy to meet her and others of fan bases, and I'll be happy to sign an autograph. Even though when I sign my autograph, it's like a scribble.
But it's an important autograph. Very important autograph.
It's not as important as some people's, But, like, for example, there's so many examples I want to make crack about. I'm exploding. But the show is Saturday at the Schoolhouse Theater in Croton Falls at 7 p.m. For those who can make it the show, I strongly urge you to do so. Stu has fought for his country, unlike Elon Musk. And sorry, I had to throw.
Well, maybe more importantly, the show's a good show. People have loved it. It's powerful. It's emotional. There's humor. And other than one little tiny politically tiny one sentence about, what's her name?
Jane Slut.
That's the one. I didn't say Slut Fonda, but Jane Fonda. Other than that, it's apolitical. It's just people find it moving.
Speaking of the liberals, Stu, I want to apologize because I spent way too much time lambasting this joke of an administration who Paul Krugman, who I despise, may I add, he wrote in a recent Substack article that they are not only incompetent, but evil. Now, I find myself often not reading his garbage, but he may have a point, but I'm diverging a little bit. But I will say...
You're not going to be nice to someone now.
No, because I don't like him personally. He's just annoying and he's hysterical.
I meant what's upcoming.
And it's hard to believe he's a Nobel Prize winner, a Princeton Nobel Prize winner. But as far as the Democrat Party is concerned,
yes.
Okay, let's talk about, one last thing. Our last mayor de Blasio, lives in Brooklyn and Park Slope. Please piss on his lawn because we're still paying the price for his horrid leadership of the city. And the current mayor, I can't imagine that he is I almost think he's as bad. He's corrupt. He's dishonest. He's discredited. There's no chance that he's going to get reelected.
And he's now a pawn.
Right, of the Trump administration. Made a deal with the devil. And for what purpose, I still aren't clear. I'm more clear on why he did it, because he's a con artist and a grifter. I don't understand what Trump thinks he's going to get out of this. Because, Adams is basically...
Not just assistance. Primarily, I think it's what he said. He wants assistance in ridding ourselves with deportation. Yeah,
I guess. I believe there's always more to it than what
maybe there are.
But on that note, I will say about Trump, we want to say something positive. They have secured our borders.
I am a fan of securing the borders.
They have eliminated DEI. Pretty much. It's now going out the wayside. They are cracking down on the anti-Semitics. And they're not just free. This is, I think that
this isn't just now.
Yeah,
he's been a grand supporter.
He's been doing something that the hapless Joe Biden never did. And on that note, and then also, as we all know, and as everyone knows, even before it happened, they went after the Houthis, and they took an aggressive stance, which is something that failed Joe Biden never did. Now, the Democrats have been whining, crying, carrying on, yet their approval ratings in the latest CNN poll was 29%. That's as bad as it's ever been. And then I think in an MSNBC, they had a 55% unfavorable rating. This is the lowest rating Democrats have had in the last 3 decades.
I don't think it's shocking. To me, these guys blew it. I've said this before. They had the opportunity to put up a forceful candidate and have gotten Biden out of the way long ago, and not put up Kamala Harris, but put up some other creditable, substantial, middle of the road, conservative financial guy, and a positive force. I think they would have had the election in the bag.
Well, of course they would have. Trump is a buffoon. But that all said, despite how unpopular they currently are, in the generic ballot for the 2026 elections, the Democrats have an edge, 48 to 47%.
Yeah.
Which
what does that say?
I don't even know what to say about that. But
it's two ugly dogs.
Yes, it really is very ugly. And in speaking of ugly, instead of a dog, let's talk about a reptile. This is the Senate Majority Leader, Reptile Schumer. Okay. Now, a lot of people are now calling for his head and they want him to resign his position, and there's talk of a primary against him led by AOC of all people.
Oh, I'm starting to gasp.
Right. She's so cute though. She was out campaigning with Bernie Sanders, another antiquated vestige of their socialist past. Now, what Schumer did was they passed a CR, continuing resolution, to fund the government through the end of September because they can't come up with a budget, right, basically. So they're just
punching the can
down the road. And in this is a suggestion of $800 billion cut for Medicaid, which is going to substantially cut back health benefits on seniors, but not just them. It's going to impact the entire healthcare system. This is something Trump said he wasn't going to do. So once again, I mean, not like this should be a surprise. He's a goddamn liar. Now, Schumer immediately said how he was going to filibuster this. He was going to stand out down to it. He was going to shut down the government. Yet he buckled like what, that bridge in Baltimore, and crashed into the ground and allowed it to pass without a filibuster, no objection, because he didn't have the balls to really stand up to them. And as a consequence, many in his party are infuriated. Now, some will defend him and said he had no choice. He was in a catch-22. But why make a threat you could never carry out? But this is what Democrats do. They threaten, but they never carry it out. Trump, on the other hand, now he may
not even threaten, but he'll carry it out.
On another reptilian note, Gavin Newson, who's been vying to run for president for God knows how long, he's getting advice from his ex-wife, Kimberly Guilfoyle, who used to be screwing Donald Trump Jr., but he cheated on her and got dumped, and now she's the ambassador to Greece or something like that. But apparently he was on a podcast with Charlie Kirk, a conservative, very conservative, may I add, and he basically said allowing women, transgender women in female sports was deeply unfair. Backtracking like the slippery snake he is, Stu. It's amazing that, with Democrats who have no backbone whatsoever, this is what they come up with as a way to redeem themselves to voters, which I do not think is going to work. And as the whole Trump brigade goes on, right, we've had a number of candidates announced. We mentioned Gavin Newson, who's one. AOC, another, is being considered. Mayor Pete Buttigieg, who was going to run, I think, for governor or senator in Michigan, then dropped out because he wants...
He's not Michigan, is he? Is he out of another state?
He was Indiana, but it was Michigan where he was planning to run for governor or senator or something. I see. He dropped out because he did such a good job in making our transportation system efficient. Now, the biggest joke of all is Tampon Tim Walz has been out and is thinking he should be running again. Now, he was a joke as a vice presidential candidate, and he recently said how we need to appeal to the masculine voters, and I am the type to do so because he exudes so much masculinity, like when he put tampons in a men's bathroom. Now, if you have to say, first of all, I don't really view Trump as all that masculine. He's a blowhard who never served his country, never did anything courageous in his life, never really done anything except whine and complain about all the injustices he experienced. So I don't really see him as masculine either. Masculine is standing by your word, having integrity, not going around bloviating and threatening people. As I think we talked about this before, Theodore Roosevelt said, what do you say, speak softly and carry a big stick? Well, Tim Walz's stick is very little. Trump's may be even littler, as suggested by little Marco Rubio in that debate many years ago. Now, the only Democrats who might have a chance of helping that Titanic of a political party is Josh Shapiro, because he is a moderate.
He's Jewish.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I mean, I'm certainly not against him for that, but isn't that still a negative?
It may be,
that's
it may
palpable.
be in certain circles, but let's face it, being an idiot apparently isn't a negative, because look at Trump. I mean, and we did have a black president. So I think it's something that could be overcome. I mean, we also, and then there's also talk of Gretchen Whitmer, who claims to be a moderate, but she was a COVID lockdown queen, Stu. She is unacceptable. She is such a disgusting opportunist. Her husband tried to get a variance so he could get his boat on the lake to evade her COVID restrictions during the height of the crisis. This is the kind of hypocritical woman. She is cute, though. I'll give her that. But she's certainly not anyone I would ever consider voting for. And as far as Josh, listen, I
believe he's performed well, and the state believes he's performed well, but there's that issue that's just quietly there.
Well, we've had the misfortune of an Irish Catholic as president.
Oh, come on.
But if you're wondering why Trump has gotten as far as he's gotten, which isn't all that far, frankly, he hasn't enacted...
He's president.
Yeah, but he hasn't enacted any major legislation. There's nothing even in the hopper. It's just a slew of executive orders because he doesn't have the power or the wherewithal to do it the way it's supposed to do, which is legislation through Congress. But, all that said, Stu, let's pivot back now to the whole Trump Leviathan and how I've always wanted to spend my script break in the Antarctic. What about you? I want to go look for minerals so that...
No, this is the Arctic.
It's the Arctic.
It's north. Yeah. Yes.
I always get the names of the correction by geography. I appreciate it greatly.
Greenland, look, it's a large island. Some would say, some would call it the largest island on the planet. Others call it a continent. It was a county within the Kingdom of Denmark and is now considered a country within the Kingdom of Denmark. It has its own legislature and language and self-rule, and they're proud people. Why is Trump interested in Greenland? Well, vast amounts of natural resources, including petroleum and rare minerals. Greenland has the largest deposits of rare earth elements outside China. That appears to be important for military purposes and others. And, of course, it has a forward preferred or defense base. And that maintains our ability to know when missiles get off that could otherwise evade radar at higher levels. And it's an important base. So you could have reasons why we want to improve our assets in and around Greenland. And they would have presumably been quite, well, I don't know that they'd be accepted immediately, but they'd be interested in talking to us. There's no question about that. Interested in talking to us about what we could do for them, what we could do for Denmark, and how it could enhance our own status as both someone not just protecting itself, but protecting the rest of the free world. But then Trump went on to say, we need Greenland for national security and even international security. I agree with the concept. We're talking about execution, though. What actions has he taken to date? Did he conduct private discussions about economic and defense matters with important Danes and Greenlanders? No. There were a couple of people, almost people on the street, who said, yeah, come on over. So he hasn't done that quiet diplomacy, which is essential, not to antagonize people. He sent Donald Trump Jr., this was the first action he took, sent Donald Trump Jr. to visit Greenland in January before he took office. Maybe the guy wanted to build condos. I don't know what the hell he was doing there at that time. Second, Trump repeated his vows to secure U.S. control of Greenland and the Panama Canal in a speech to a joint session of Congress on March 4. This is all before he's had conversations with these people, the important people. Then he said, I think we're going to get it. This is a quote. I think we're going to get it. One way or the other, we're going to get it. Now, isn't this wonderful if you happen to live in Greenland or Denmark and about any other country in the world, and you hear a guy talking about acquiring your country without your permission? He sent over National Security Advisor Mike Walz and now J.D. Vance.
You mean J.D. Piglet Vance?
I didn't say that.
Did he have his eyeliner on?
I don't know that, but he said, and now Vance, I don't know why in the last day or two they thought that would improve the group that was going over as the representation. I don't understand it. He's sending over. Oh, and by the way, now the wife is going, of course. She is supposed to visit cultural sites.
A dog sledding event.
It's a dog sledding. I mean, really, why would you do this to another country? It sounds like just a hapless group going over there without permission and bound to say some stupid things. So he said, he's sending over those guys. And then Trump said, and if you look at the ships outside of Greenland, you have Russia, China, you have both of them and different people in lots of places and da-da-da-da. He's right. It is a dangerous place, and it's a critical part of the globe for defense matters and for matters of geological resources. Of course it is. I think everyone, reasonable person would agree. But how do you go about doing that? You should have kind of waited for someone to invite you. Instead, they've called this thing highly aggressive. This is the language of one of their senior people. He calls it highly aggressive. Well, why the hell should and this the presence of Mrs. Vance, Usha Vance? I just don't get that. It sounds like they're just going to have a good time at a race
in Greenland. Where I always
and now I know. And is this so? Again, I question whether this is any sort of sensible, rational diplomacy, as opposed to quiet discussions on those subjects of minerals and defense. Trump is driving a wedge in our relations with Greenland, not enhancing relations. It's positively stupid. Now, this is half tongue-in-cheek, and I leave you with this. But
okay, go ahead.
Article 5 of the NATO treaty, establishing the North Atlantic Treaty Organization, says that, quote, an armed attack against one is an attack upon all. Now, at some point, when Trump takes further aggressive action, it showing up with a boat or something offshore, who knows what. I just think it's almost comical. I think it's wonderful grist for Saturday Night Live. At some point, NATO may have to consider whether there's been attack on one of its members by another member.
You know what, Stu? This talk of annexing countries. I mean, the Greenland thing was something that came up in his first term and never went anywhere, and it was scoffed at and mocked. Now he's being more aggressive about it. I guess he wants to.
But it's a good idea to have that.
Well, I
don't mean to have them in the way he's talking.
It's a good idea to use it as a base of military operations. Now, as far as
and to get their resources if they're willing to.
Well, people have tried to get their resources, Stu, and because it's all tundra, basically.
No, offshore stuff I'm talking about.
Oh, well, they're talking about mineral deposits on their land.
Yeah.
But it's frozen. People have tried to explore this before, and it's never really been successful. It is a country of 50,000 people, and I don't care how many spaceships SpaceX launches with the help of China's money. I don't believe that they're going to be able to access with the environment, access minerals to use in the Tesla batteries, because I can't.
I don't know.
I think the whole thing is preposterous. Meanwhile, a New York Times article said how Trump is obsessed with getting a Nobel Prize. That he thinks that he should get one because he's brought about peace. He should have got one for the Abraham Accords. That quasi has merit. But now he also, because he's going to bring about peace in Ukraine, which hasn't happened. And frankly, they're not going to award someone who sells out a smaller country to a dictator, which is what he's essentially doing. And he's jealous that Obama got a Nobel Prize. Now, I couldn't figure out why Obama got that prize in the first place, but on the surface, it was a historic achievement that he became president because he was the first African American to do so in a country that had segregation, slavery, and the like. I'm going to assume he was viewed as somewhat of a Nelson Mandela figure, and that's why they did it. However, he certainly wasn't, and he was not a good president, but that's another issue. But the whole Greenland thing, it's either incompetent, stupid, irrelevant, and a distraction. And it's disturbing, too, because they keep on insisting on it like it's actually a credible idea. There's nothing credible about us taking on Greenland. We cannot manage our country as it is. We have infrastructure that's falling. We have an educational system that's declining and an economy that's in jeopardy. And now we're going to take on some frozen island in the middle of nowhere. Give me a break.
But go ahead.
But I guess I'm getting back onto my anti-Trump thing, Stu.
Yeah.
And one of the things
Let's say Walz. I know what I wanted to say. Walz. Walz is going. I might have referred to Vance.
You mentioned it.
I did mention Walz, and he's having enough problems of his own.
You mean he included a liberal far left journalist in confidential discussions with war plans in it, and
now they're saying in front of the Congress, in front of a committee I saw this morning, saying that really no items of significant were revealed. Nothing really serious.
What? Yeah, it was a war plan and the timing for it. And according to the drunkard, skirt-chasing, thrice-divorced Christian from Fox News who runs the defense secretary who's attacking the journalist. Well, the journalist didn't ask to be included in the discussion. And Hegseth is a complete buffoon also because Signal is not a government entity. It is a private entity. He was releasing our war plans on an unsecured network. Whether that's legal or not is another question. And it's another example of how Hegseth does not belong in that job. He's incompetent beyond words. I mean, he's one of the worst cabinet picks of this group of clowns out there. But on that said, the way they lie and their deceit is bad enough, Stu. But I saw this quote somewhere. I was just thinking of it from George Orwell's 1984. And he wrote in the book, every record has been destroyed or falsified. Every book rewritten. Every picture has been repainted. Every statue and street building has been renamed. Every date has been altered. And the process is continuing day by day, minute by minute. History has stopped. Nothing exists except an endless present in which the party is always right. Now, he was talking about totalitarianism, and this sounds almost reminiscent of what the Democrats did with BLM and DEI and all the rest of it. But now I think we're seeing it from the far-right fascists, a.k.a. Trump and his crew of clowns who can't even keep a war plan secure, okay? It's not. And here's some examples of what I've heard, okay? First of all, we had the mayor of D.C. who brazenly put up a Black Lives Matter plaza when Trump was president the first time as an act of defiance towards him. Well, now she's been threatened with funding cutbacks and limits of home rule, so she tore up Black Lives Matter plaza. Now, I don't think there should have ever been a plaza for that ridiculous movement, which was fraudulent. But if you're going to put a plaza in, which she did, her name is Muriel Browser, now you're such a scaredy cat, you're going to eliminate history?
He is frightening people, and that comes up in so many different contexts. He's threatening their lives. He's threatening their jobs. He's threatening people who want to deal with other business people. It's a very offensive, insidious movement.
It certainly is. And on a humorous note, at HHS, they had a mural up somewhere, and one of the figures in the mural was one of my favorites, Dr. Anthony Fauci. They painted over it. Yeah. I mean, talk about Orwellian. And frankly, why would you waste your time on something like that? It's just petty and stupid. And look who's running HHS, a complete buffoon who thinks measles is cured through taking vitamin A instead of a fully effective vaccine. But along with that, we have talked a little about our drunk, skirt-chasing Christian defense secretary. There's been more ridiculousness over there as they eliminate DEI from all their websites. We talked about the Enola Gay. Well, now they are removing from the website a Medal of Honor recipient, Sergeant William Carey of the 54th Massachusetts Colored Infantry. They removed his references to him because he's black. Similarly,
removed it from what?
from like websites and literature because, we can't use the word black or gay anymore at the Pentagon, even though Trump still listens to the YMCA, which is a gay anthem. And I think one of the people in there, wasn't one of them a military person also? I don't know. I think. All right. The Jackie Robinson has also, his military service link records and links to it have been eliminated. And then, also at Arlington National Cemetery, notable Black, Hispanic, and female veterans were removed from Arlington's website. Now, at the Kennedy Center, Stu, Harvey Fierstein, who I'm sure you've heard of, he's like a Broadway legend. Yeah. He's clearly a liberal. He was barred from coming to the Kennedy Center, which I also find, I guess because he said stuff that was negative about Trump. I mean, he's flamboyantly gay.
So they're now controlling who can walk in the door there.
Yeah. And why? But I've never heard anything so preposterous in my life. Like, if you're so fearful of your enemy, that says a lot about you, doesn't it? And I don't think Harvey Fierstein really qualifies as an enemy. I mean, what's he going to do? Write a play about you? He's not going to waste his time. And then we're also hearing now about how they are treating these vandals of the Tesla dealerships as terrorism, except no one's died. Isn't terrorism when you kill people? Vandalizing a Tesla dealership is not advisable. It shouldn't be done. But vandalizing and killing are two different things. So I don't know if that's fully terrorist, but it's also to put a chilling effect on these people.
Look, if you destroy property, and what if it were a nuclear plant or something else? You don't have to kill someone to be a threat to our national security and our population. I don't know where the definition of terrorism comes out.
Do you think a Tesla dealership is part of our national security? Some shitty car that doesn't even work?
If it's a progressive series of acts of destruction across the country over a period of time, I see, and it's a part of some fuller, greater movement. I see the potentiality for that.
There's been no proof of that, though.
No, but
I'm guessing it's just a bunch of radical lefties spray painting swastikas and burning down Teslas. I mean, sure, they should go to jail for it, just as the people who vandalized our nation's capital and tried to lynch our vice president on January 6th. But they got a pardon. And by the way, what they did would clearly classify as an act of terrorism, may I add.
Yeah.
Now, we've also heard about the attacks on universities and academic freedom, and we've discussed that extensively. And by the way, I would question the burning of the Tesla dealerships. Who's really doing it? They say it's radicals, Stu, and it could be. But as you recall, when the Reichstag burned in Berlin, when the Nazis were taking over, they used that as a pretext to go after their enemies. I wouldn't be surprised if Elon and his 14 kids are setting the matches. I would not be surprised. And of course, Judge Roberts has condemned the violent, the attacks on federal judges. And a lot of these judges were appointed by Republicans. They were not appointed by, like
Biden or predecessor.
And I would like to end with this most amusing note, Stu. One of the things that one of the things he recently said in an interview was the greatest weakness of Western civilization is empathy. We have too much empathy. Now, isn't empathy a strength? And doesn't he sound like a sociopath or at least a Nazi? And on that note, he is obsessed with this whole Social Security administration, disrupted the entire agency. They fired people. The website's going down 10 times. So far, we have seen no proof of significant fraud. And now people are having trouble filing for benefits. And Howard Lutnick, who is another one of these disgusting people who is the Commerce Secretary, was in an interview and he claimed that if my 95-year-old mother-in-law missed a check of Social Security, she would just wait till the next week and figure it was a mistake. Anyone who's so obsessed with getting it on a weekly basis is probably committing fraud. Now, Howard Lutnick is a billionaire, and I'm sure his mother-in-law is well taken care of. Does he need the Social Security money? More importantly, Stu, let's talk about Howard and what a disgusting human being he is. We all recall during 9/11 when Canterford Jail lost 2/3 of its workforce, he did this tearful, emotional interview where he's going to help all the families who lost people, blah, blah, blah. It was really amazing that someone with a harsh and brutal reputation as he would say all that. And then what did he do? He cut off the health benefits of all the families who had lost people in 9/11, and there was a huge backlash. And he put profits of Cantor Fitzgerald, once it got back up and running, into a fund to help the families, but a lot of people claim it wasn't really enough money to help them. So Howard Lutnick is another sociopathic nightmare, and what an idiot. And stay the hell away from Social Security unless you can prove ways to save money, not this incompetent bumbling. On that note, Stu, I know you have one last thing we did already, but that you wanted to mention. So.
Yeah, I just wanted to talk, about another aspect of Trump's aggressiveness, and I think, I don't know what psychological adjective to apply to it, but it's a serious offense. He's attacking law firms. Now, the broader point, he wants to be surrounded by people who agree with him, people who praise him, people who fawn over him. Those disagreeing with him or placing an obstacle in his path will be fired, ridiculed, or attacked financially or legally. They can all look forward to that. Trump has launched a broad-scale attack on prominent law firms which represent positions not to his liking. Steve Bannon has openly said that, and it's really stunning. He said that they're trying to bankrupt those, my word, unacceptable firms. He used the word bankrupt. They're trying to bankrupt those firms. Two examples to talk about. One is this law firm called Perkins, and I'm not sure the pronunciation of their last name. Coy, I'll call it Coy.
Out in Seattle.
Yeah.
Bill Seattle's father was, I believe, a partner there.
Oh, didn't know.
Right.
Yep. And because of their representation of political opponents, George Soros, a liberal benefactor, and Hillary Clinton, Trump ordered, this is what Trump ordered, again, the executive order. He ordered security clearances of Perkins Coie attorneys suspended. He ordered government contracts with Perkins Coie eliminated. He ordered that employees be denied entrance to government buildings. And finally, he ordered that there be identification, and this is fascinating, identification of those doing business with Perkins Coie. Now, imagine the effect of that last one, where you now become fearful of being identified as a client, and for what purpose? Well, if Trump doesn't want you to deal with him, he'll tell you not to, or you may be fearful of dealing with Perkins Coie after that, with good reason. And a judge, named Beryl Howell, stayed Trump's executive order on that front. But Trump has asked that Howell be removed from the case because of alleged bias. That's not likely to hold any water. Howell has refused to step down. Coie but here's the interesting thing about it. Coie has continued the fight. And I consider, and this is, at great risk to them and their partners and their clients. There's no question about that. It's a critical fight as I see it. Someone's got to stand up to avoid what I'll call autocratic suffocation, illegal autocratic suffocation. Second example, and this will be in a contrast to Perkins Coie and its response, of another prominent firm, Paul Weiss Rifkin something, got Trump's attention by pushing for prosecution of January 6 participants and for other reasons. Paul Weiss received a similar executive order. Stay out of the buildings, government buildings, security clearances revoked. They decided to strike a deal with Trump. They had a guy go promptly over to Trumpville in the White House and strike a deal. The agreement states that the firm will dedicate the equivalent of $40 million to pro bono legal services over what amount to Trump's initiatives, and that includes veterans assistance and the president's task force to combat anti-Semitism. But it also says that the firm will not adopt, use, or pursue any DEI policies and will conduct an audit of its own employment practices. Now, the head of, at least the negotiating head of Paul Weiss, managing partner, said they didn't agree to this. That they didn't agree to this business of adopting this and not pursuing that, but there it is in the order, and so you only wonder about what was agreed to in private. And one of the Paul Weiss people said, and with some legitimacy, he said, just after the agreement, several days ago, our firm faced an existential crisis. The executive order would easily have destroyed our firm, he wrote. It brought the full weight of the government down on our firm, our people, and our clients. And that certainly sounds Orwellian to me, and he's right. I just think that they took a different approach, I'll call it, not one that's admirable, I'd call it, as opposed to fighting. They caved. And I understand that they may have suffered, but sometimes you got to suffer.
Well, I don't know how much they really did suffer, Stu, because...
Would have.
Well, anyway, because you want to know what the profit per partner are at a place like Paul Weiss? They make they're one of the most highly paid law firms. I haven't looked it up, but it's like $4 or $5 million profit per partner per year.
Yeah.
And the bottom line is, these law firms are bloodsuckers. They are looking to make the maximum dollar. They spew out all that, liberal garbage that they spew out. And Paul Weiss is, I think, probably got a reputation for being a little more Democrat liberal than some of the other places. And it was historically a Jewish firm where a lot of highly qualified Harvard and Columbia grads went because the other white shoe firms
wouldn't hire them.
So now they've decided to sell out to the highest bidder, certainly not saying much for their integrity either.
That's the way I feel.
But, nothing surprises me. I mean, because, those law firms are really institutions of evil, a lot of them. And at the same time, why a president of the United States is getting involved in private business dealings in this manner is Orwellian, and it's sickening, and it's not free market capitalism. This is what Hitler would do.
And the continued attack upon justices, judges and justices, that's only growing, that's only continuing.
Which I think I mentioned, John Roberts condemned it. The Supreme Court justice who was a Bush appointee and hardly a liberal. But at the end of the day, Stu, I don't know where it's all going to land. And as I really don't know whether it's true or not anymore. And perhaps for one time in my life, I find myself in agreement with one of the most noxious former New York Times op-ed writer, that is Paul Krugman. These people aren't just incompetent, they're evil too. And they need to, I don't know how it's all going to end, but maybe if we believe in karma, this is all going to come back to haunt these noxious and revolting people.
That is, unless Trump gets elected to a third term. Now, I know I joked about this, but only half. And it got some news. There was a news comment made on one of the morning shows, on one of the Sunday morning shows. And the question was put to some Republican, are you doing anything to bring forth an effort? I believe they're going to come forth with an effort of some kind. Now, it seems preposterous at the moment, but they will work on some legal theory.
I wouldn't put anything past them, but
I don't think he wants to leave office.
No, of course not. He's going to leave in a casket. He's going to stay there like other dictators until he dies. Or goes to jail.
Tries to, at least.
Right,
yeah.
Right. Now, I'm not sure that's going to go over well with J.D. Piglet Vance because he's been vying for the presidential spot in 2028, but God forbid that completely revolting person. I don't know who on the Republican side has any integrity left. I personally have never regretted a vote more than I did my last one, and that's how bad Joe Biden was. But I would prefer not to ever vote again than to select people this revolting.
That's interesting.
Happy?
I don't know where it's going to end either, but I certainly have a large number of people for whom I would not vote. I'm waiting to have emerge some respectable candidate from either party I would take.
Well, my cats are running. They do a better job than these morons. But anyway, I guess on this happy note,
yes,
it's spring, the flowers are blooming, not in Greenland though. And I guess until our next time, Stu.
Yeah, bye-bye.